Hello? Oh, what happened? Hey, no one's here? They all went to see Sunny. Sunny? You know Sunny, right? Yeah. The Sunny. She's in critical. Wow. How's she doing?
Not very good. They may going to put her into an incubator, so she will lose conscious and just the machine going to let her breathe.
Hello?
Hello? Yeah, depends on if she can reply back or be there.
But last time I thought you started
Hi.
getting better. Hello?
Hi. Hey, this is Wei Wei.
Hey, baby.
Hey, Anu.
And Claudio here.
Hi, Claudia.
Hello.
Hi, it's Elizabeth. I'm on the call today, too.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi, this is Ian.
Hi, Ian.
Good afternoon.
We just give it a couple more minutes. Wait for Jeff to call in before we get started.
Hey, this is Jeff.
Hi, Jeff. They went to see Sunny actually.
Oh, they want to see Sunny too?
So, in the room here, I have Nina, Hua, and Ergin. Trevor said he'd be a little late coming in. On the call, we have Claudio, Elizabeth, CUNY, Ian, Ron, Todd, Tim, and Wei Wei. Did I miss anybody?
Alejandra here, hello.
Hi, Alejandra. So, just to talk briefly about today's agenda, we just see if there are any updates on action items, some of the action items that we had, and also want to talk about DataMed version 1.5, about the demo at both EMEA and the BD2K All Hands meeting. We had a BioLink meeting just prior to this meeting, and we can just give update on that. We also had a visualization supplement meeting on Monday, and I'd like to give a brief update on that. And I guess most of the call today, I hope, will be spent in discussing. I wrote a response to the DataMed version 1 evaluation by the Pittsburgh group, and I have it up on Google Docs, and I'll send the link, but I also attached the main document. I don't know if people have had time to go through it, but we can maybe briefly look at it and then decide if the response is appropriate or not. If time permits after that, then we could talk about some additional repositories that we are going to be indexing into DataMed, as well as any discussions about the data type ontology. So for the action items, we would like to generate a help and FAQ page, and I haven't seen anybody add in anything yet. So please do start adding material here, and this is available. Actually, this is being put up in the CDT Google folder, and if you could start putting material in, then we can start organizing it and getting it onto the website as soon as possible. So the second thing that we want to talk about is the server that was to be discussed by Jeff and Claudio. Do you have any updates, Claudio?
No, not yet. Hello, I can hear you very poorly.
We can hear you okay.
Okay, I was saying there is no update at this time. So working on it.
So Anu, going back to the FAQ real quick, the questions in the document we got from Pittsburgh, some of those are actually potentially FAQ questions, right? Like the repositories and things like that. So perhaps what we should do is, as we're going through this document, basically tag the questions that should be facts, because then we can easily, out of this document, create the first version of the facts.
Okay.
Or some initial ones, at least.
All right. That sounds like a good plan. Okay, we can do that. Sorry, why you were...
Oh no, just for the server, what's the plan? Do we need to set up more servers, or we are okay with current setting? Claudio?
I haven't seen any performance drawback with current setup, but we have already one machine ready for it. So it's just a matter of seeing more issues coming up. For instance, I was trying to get another user to use DataMed yesterday, and he approached the search from a completely different angle. He was looking for array, and it was difficult for him to actually find something that was supposed to be indexable. So I think we have to look also at how users are using the other repositories and see whether we can approach a similar workflow from their point of view. Because if they cannot find what they're looking for, even if it's indexed through our interface, why would they go to it?
I'm not quite sure I understand.
What I was saying is that the speed is not an issue. Yesterday I was trying with another colleague to look through DataMed to find something that he already knew where it was in array, and this is supposed to be indexed, but he was not able to find it. So it's more like, how do you...
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Looking from their point of view, how they actually use DataMed to find my information quickly without actually going to the repository itself. And whether we are expressive enough to be able to express more complex searches. Like, for instance, he wanted to limit the search by a specific organism, in this case was human, Homo sapiens, and then narrowing down to, let's say, microRNA sequences, which we cannot really have that kind of filtering capability in it.
Yeah, that's more kind of functionality stuff. I'm trying to figure out those server setups. Last time we talked about you have a backup server you can actually add to.
Yes, it is ready and we can use it anytime. It's just there is no need currently to use it because it seems like the issue is not the speed of the interface, is that the interface is not expressive enough for what they are looking for.
So I think the speed issue was actually reported by Lucilla. I remember some time ago when she said that she thought DataMed was very slow, which is why we started looking back into this.
I think currently it works just fine. Yeah, probably it was just a temporary issue, or maybe it was an issue at that time, but currently I don't see any slowdown.
So one thing that I noticed as I was writing a response, and I don't know if maybe Xiaoling and Ruiling can also pitch in here, is when I went into DataMed, And I was, okay, let's look at it. Oh, not this one. Look at another. So when you go into DataMed and you look for anything, right, whatever, cancer, you search, it loads, that's fine. But if you go into an individual one, it takes time for this page to load. Why?
Which one?
The search itself doesn't take so much time, but the individual page to load it seems like there's a lag.
Yeah, so there's some function to show this page correctly.
We have three services on the right side. One is student center service. The other is related application service. The third one is grant information. For each service, we need to go to back and search.
But that was the only place where I thought it seemed a little, there seemed to be maybe 1 or 2 seconds. But
this is probably a user interface issue or getting data from datasets, not really a next search performance bottleneck.
Yeah, probably need to optimize this page a little bit.
Exactly.
Check.
So I think that it's a different issue. We have to look, what are you trying to optimize? Are you trying to optimize the search? It seems like that's not an issue. Are you trying to optimize how it's displaying the information, how it's gathering, how it's structuring? There are completely different issues.
Oh, yeah.
No, the only reason that we initially thought about the server was because of the fact that we had this reported that the search itself was a little slow. But as I was looking through, this is something that I noticed, so we can look in through that. I know some of us provided feedback on the video. Was there any additional feedback? Jeff, did you get anything else from anybody?
Well, there were a number of emails a while ago, so I have those, and Devin's working on the next version.
Okay.
So potentially by next week we'll have something. I have to check with him again this week to see where he's at, because he was redoing some of the graphics based on the comments, so that sometimes takes a little while.
So for the pilot project integration, I need to contact the Lawrence Berkeley team I haven't gone back. I know Elizabeth had contacted earlier, but they said they were a little busy until mid-November. So we need to get back to them now so that they can present to the co-development team and we can schedule a presentation. In terms of link out, do we have any updates?
I need to reply to Cassie about the questions that she asked. What's the relationship between the SciCrunch and DataMed? Yeah. Because there's some publications, there's a link out from the SciCrunch. There's only one data set from YPED. But if we provided our DataMed link, it will also provide that link, the same data set. So she thinks that it's a duplicate for the user. So she asked the relationship between the SciCrunch and...
Well, they provide different types of information, so, they're duplicated in some way, but not completely, right?
Yeah.
If you want to take a first pass at a response, I can help edit it.
Okay. I will forward the email to you.
Okay.
So for the BD2K all hands meeting as well as the demo at ANIA, the demo went well. And during the BD2K all hands meeting, there was interest from Uniprot and others to link to BioCaddy. So we had them wanting to link in to us. And you can see from the Google Analytics, you can see from the Google Analytics page, so the November 14th, where you see a spike, is when Lucilla and Hua did the demo at EMEA, and you see the spike on November 29th when we had the BD2C all hands meeting. So it did look like people went in and checked us out. And actually the number of surveys that were submitted as part of the feedback has gone up now to 25. So I was talking to Nina and Todd, do you think it would be possible to present some results from this next week?
Todd, are you on the line?
Sorry, I was muted and on speakerphone.
Oh.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, we've got at least some more, and we've got the basic Tableau and data wrangling structure down, so it should be easy to incorporate any new results in and show what we've got.
Because I thought if we can look at what the responses were and if there were any, we did ask them to let us know about bugs or any additional functionalities and other stuff. So if we can look at those and then figure out what we want to do and what we don't, it would be nice.
Right, and we're also, I've been meeting with Ram since he's starting to also work on the usability aspect here in the evaluation. So we're moving forward with that as well.
Okay. So for the visualization supplement, Xiaochen talked about geo-mapping of data from clinical trials and dbGaP, and they have a website that they wanted some feedback on. So this is the website, that's the link that I put up here. And please do go in and provide any feedback that you can. It's actually a supplement between the Link PCIC and BioCaddy. Another visualization element that they've been talking about is a Chrome extension, where they would like to provide links next to the data sets with some external links that actually links to the dataset analysis tools. They have a preliminary version that they actually demoed, which links from Geo primarily, I think, and they are looking into other things. But right now they're working independently since it's a Chrome extension. But they would ultimately like to have this extension running natively from DataMed. So this is something where we may get involved later on, but I think for now our involvement is not going to be very, very intense for the supplement. And we also had the call with the but with the BioLink people. I think
so, Anu, I'd like to pick up on that. So, this was the talk that was in on Tuesday afternoon, right from the Links team, the Chrome extension. So, it's a fun supplement, but we should be looking to get some value out of that. I would like to hear discussion amongst the team about this as a piece of functionality that should be added into DataMed. It seemed, fairly mature. I talked with a guy who demoed it to see what extent there had been discussion with the tech team, and it seemed that there hadn't. When we're talking about something like that, have they taken the code for the UI and extended it themselves?
No, I think
at some point getting into the question of how would an extension like that be put into the UI.
Well, currently all it is a Chrome extension, which is JavaScript. And so if it were to be put into the UI, then you'd have to rip the JavaScript out of the Chrome extension and place it into the code for the page itself.
So they're just running it in their browser at the moment?
Correct.
Okay. I mean, and it would only work in Chrome at the moment? Yes?
Yeah, I believe so.
The technical details of how it happens are less, it's not the technical details that matter so much about, like, how is this as a feature added to DataMed, and should it be what's the priority for it being pursued? I mean, it looked useful.
And I think we'll have to think about
some interaction with that team seems timely, is the point, rather than leaving this for way off in the future.
So what they said was that they were going to be building an API, but they would like to see if they could have this extension running natively from DataMed. But they were going to also have an API, but where they're basically pinging to the API to get back the data, right? And the rest of the things, like in terms of getting recommendations and crowdsourcing to actually establish links and the database at the back end, is all hosted on their server.
One concern I have is with the maintainability of this extension, who's going to do it, and whether if it fails, it affects negatively our clients.
It's good to hear an engineering voice pick up on the kinds of issues, we need to be thinking about.
Because if it doesn't work as expected, or if it doesn't really show it in the way that our users will like, then what happens? Is DataMed going to be blamed, or they will consider that we failed? Whether it is not our fault or not, that's irrelevant for them. Do we say this is a third-party thing that is provided as is, no extension, no warranties, or how are we going to cast this out?
Claudio, for BioCaddy, at least for the people on the CDT currently, nobody is really working on this supplement directly, right? It's being worked on, I think, I don't know who. I know Xiao Chen is working on the geomapping part of it, and presumably the Links DCIC folks are working on the Chrome extension part.
Yeah, that's my concern with an extension is basically a third-party kind of entity that we bring in. If you make changes to DataMed, that's fine. We can make them in one place and they all work nicely. But an extension is tied to the browser. If there is a new release of the browser, or Google makes a different change in the API, then we have to update and we have to keep track of all the versions. It's a lot of support, basically, issue that we have to tackle on. Are we ready to do that, or is it more trouble than it's worth?
I'm not sure that that's something that we could decide at the CDT. Maybe it has to be decided at the EC level.
I think, maybe it should be discussed at the CD, at the exec level. But the basic thing here is, it's a supplement, but it's a supplement to BioCaddy, and as a supplement to BioCaddy, in my mind at least, from an NIH point of view, it's part of the same project, and for them to continue in a separate silo is not a good route. And Claudio is giving a lot of detailed examples of why, if you're building an extension to something, there should be some agreement around how this is engineered and put together, so that it's something that's welcomed as a useful contribution functionally, but from an engineering point of view, that it is put together in a robust fashion, and the way that a plugin like that works with the interface something that's being considered, rather than just being sort of hacked.
But Ian, there's sort of two issues, right? There's sort of the issue with the development of this specific plugin because it's a supplement and we want it sort of to be more targeted. But in terms of plugins in general, I mean, there's no control we have over
Indeed. As soon as I realized that as soon as I was saying it, that it's opening a can of worms. Like, what is the plugin architecture of BioCaddy, of DataMed? Well, I don't know that we need to go there right yet, but with this specific one, I mean, I think beginning to explore that would, on something that's funded and appears to add value, that let's start with how will we do that?
I think this is an opportunity to learn and also to put some boundaries between what is basically BioCaddy providing as a system and what responsibility third parties, even if in this case it's a supplement. But if somebody else wants to develop a plugin and they want to have it listed in BioCaddy, how do you accomplish that? Where do you have the boundaries between this is mainstream supported, this is experimental, this is a third party, and how do we define that kind of boundaries?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that we have a bunch of plugin developers lining up to develop plugins, and I don't think we need to.
I think people will start coming up with tools like JBrowse or others that you'd like to see certain things that are already there in some repository. Let's say a browser for medical imaging or another browser for genomes or other things that are popular, and why not see them right there? It allows for a much faster browse through the data that you already have without having to go to the site. Just my 2 cents.
Yeah, we will discuss this further later.
In the ECO thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think at this point, didn't want to put, discussion to an end. I mean, I think at this point, some dialogue between those developers and the CDT would be useful at this point.
So we have that meeting is a recurring meeting. I think it's scheduled again for beginning of next month. It's once a month meeting. So we can definitely bring this up again. And in the meanwhile, if we have an executive meeting before that, I think that should be covered there first as well. Also, I put together a response and I uploaded it into Google Docs. So and I just saw that Ian sent also a response, so let me pull that up. And maybe, I don't know how many of you have had a chance to go through all the comments that were sent in by the Pittsburgh group with regard to DataMed. So what we could do is to go through the comments one by one. I put in some responses that are shown up here in red. But I think one of the things that we do want to talk about, which is probably also similar to what Ian has sent in his email, which I haven't had a chance to read, is Ian, you want to go through it? I I mean, I just want to know how many people really actually had time to go in and look at, go through the review.
Well, partly, Anu, my reaction to it is don't panic. And in a way, I think now we've got a prototype. I mean, and I think I've said this all along, is the great thing about having a prototype and getting the executable software out there is that it gives people something to respond to. So the first thing is, I think it's great that we've got a response. And the fact that, I mean, some of the things on here I find frustrating. I'm sure we all find frustrating to a degree. So the thing, I tried to categorize, as I went through this, I thought, well, there's some underlying themes to this. And for example, the second one that I highlighted there is, it in general, a number of their questions are raised because of a lack of information. And if there's better communication and documentation, then they would know answers to the questions like what the range of data is and why clinicaltrials.gov is included, and other questions. Just based off a lack of information. But my feeling, I don't want to go through this in detail because this should be something that we just take in our stride. And I'd have preferred to see these issues submitted into GitHub and dealt with along with everybody else's responses. And as long as we have a method for doing that, then we'll make forward progress and people will see their issues getting addressed. But, to channel somebody else's words here, if they put it in together in a document and call it a report, it kind of makes a federal case out of it when there's no need to. It's just, you develop software, there are issues. Let's have mechanisms in place to deal with that. And nobody should look at this as severe criticism, even if it were intended that way, and I don't know that it is that someone was trying to ding it or make a point or something and say, we're open for business. People submit your issues and we'll work through them. But there are definitely things here that need to be addressed. But I would say put them on the list, like, the other issues that we have, and they have to be prioritized and addressed, along with everything else.
So Lucilla wanted a response to be sent back to the team, which is why I actually did write a response.
Yeah. But part of that could be response could be, thank you for these issues. There are a number of issues there. Maybe we put them in GitHub ourselves, but follow along in GitHub to see how they get addressed.
I think I'd like to second what Ian suggested, because then that makes it all available in one place and sets the ongoing precedent that everything should be done through GitHub.
I mean, it's not a sustainable model.
Right.
If we have to respond to everybody's questions about, for example, the question where they wrote, why are entries in clinicaltrials.gov included? They have no data. All right. How many times have we discussed that on these calls? If the outcome of our discussions are available, we can say to them, well, we know that, yes, indeed, 80% of the data the things in clinicaltrials.gov don't have data, but about 20% of them do. And what we're listing is the 20% that do. It needs improved documentation to be, I don't want to create. We need to scale this. You should scale this documentation to the appropriate level, because answering every question under the sun through documentation would be a lot of work. But where we know stuff, then we should make that available to people.
So when you say documentation, I guess we would direct them to I don't know if we would direct them to GitHub or to where we have our notes, or to, I'm not sure if everybody would have the same kind of questions. And so I like Jeff's idea of putting together a FAQ, starting from some of the things that have come up.
I think an FAQ, I didn't want to be specifying how that documentation should work, but an FAQ may well be the right one. But if you look, there's another one there, right, about, in this current version, DataMed appears to have over 20 different data sources representing 65K data sets and 10 different. They say this number is only a fraction of the small number of publicly available data sets. Something we should be saying is some paragraph or whatever it takes to say, this is here's the list of data sets which we already, or repositories which we already have, and what is the strategy for inclusion.
Right. So.
And we have the crisis working group and criteria to refer to. These are the criteria for inclusion in DataMed.
So,
part of what I said to these guys would be, hey, go to the BioCaddy site and work through all the working group discussions. But I don't think that's really what I want to say to them.
So one of the things that I did put in response to why are only certain selected data sources provided is exactly what you said, is that the repositories have been prioritized for ingestion by DataMed on the basis of criteria that are defined by a working group organized by BioCaddy. And for details, there's a link to the criteria work group page. And then it's been, we use a priority score that's developed and implemented by a working group, which is the working group 11 that George heads, to decide the data sources that will be ingested. So I wonder if if everybody on the team could go over these responses and then provide maybe comments back, and then we could decide which of these should go into FAQ settings would be easiest, just because they're going to be on the website directly and much more easily accessible to the user than directing them to a different site like GitHub or anything else.
It looks like you have the makings of an excellent FAQ document here, Hannah. It's just a question of how many times does a question need to be asked for it to become an FAQ. And that's a facetious question that I just asked. Would be a good. The questions they asked would be a good start for an FAQ.
Well, to me, this is an ongoing exercise. As new questions come in, some may be determined to belong in facts, where a more generalized answer could be provided to those who submit queries.
Right, and you know, as Ron's sort of indicating, I mean, it's ongoing. This is just a routine thing. And Anu, you have the answers to many of these questions, and you put them there. We don't need to discuss and approve much of this, I think.
Well, one way to look at it is that once we determine which of these belong as facts, that is, someone who poses a question that's going to be similar that we've heard before or that does pertain to a germane issue in DataMed, go to facts, and then when someone submits a similar question, they get an email back that says, thank you for your response. These are important questions. I refer you to the facts or alternatively to the GitHub for our responses.
Right, but you're heading in a direction there, Ron, where to do what you're describing requires a whole help desk and customer support structure.
Well, it does, but on the other hand, we haven't been deluged yet, right?
Probably not.
So again, in the sense of it being a prototype, this is a prototype response. And if it is found that more is needed to handle that, then one of the things BioAcademy needs to tell the NIH is that for something like this, where there's a lot of complexity and a lot of moving pieces, support for help desk is needed.
So one of the things but there were some things that were raised here which I thought would be, at least, I mean, if everybody were to go through and then put in their thoughts, it would be useful, because they're asking about why we should have the representations in terms of repositories rather than concepts. Why aren't we grouping data sets under concepts rather than repositories?
Yeah, but so Anu, where you think there are issues which need to be discussed?
Right.
And something like that, yeah, should get discussed, but so should everything else that's on the GitHub list.
True. No, but I mean, as I was going through this, I guess one of the things that I did feel was that there are things we probably need to bring up and put it in, whereas some of them are things that have already been addressed or is being addressed, and so we could simply go back even though we don't currently have any documentation for us to point it to. So I think at this point of time we can respond back to them and then use this as to build our documentation on. So anyway, we will get as the new issues that are reported here in GitHub, and I still would like to have some feedback from the CDP on which of these should actually go into FAQ, and we'll start working on putting it in as FAQ. So another issue that we have, which Xiaoling and I talked about briefly today morning, is for the clinical trials, we have a metadata field which says results or data is available or not, right?
Yeah, it's true or authentic.
Yeah, so if we want to display that, Xiaoling's thought is that it might be easier to reindex clinical trials data with just those records that have the metadata field, that specific metadata field as true, so that we are pulling in only those data sets that have data or results associated with them.
Sounds sensible, and I thought that's what we talked about when this
so from what we have currently, I don't think we have pulled in everything. There's just a field there which tells you whether it has results or not, but we haven't re-indexed it yet. So Jeff, there are some of the previous repositories that haven't been re-indexed as yet, I guess. I think clinical trials was probably we basically had to remap it to DATS 2.1, and we did. I think it's complete now, so maybe as soon as when it's getting re-indexed, we should just index that only those records that have that field as true, and then it will be.
We can decide where we should pull just that subset out. Are you doing the re-indexing at where you are, or?
No, I thought Burak was going to re-index all the 23 repositories, right?
Yeah. So let us know when that is actually completed. The mapping is the file in GitHub checked in, so Burak can go ahead and do that, or?
Jeff, the mapping file is already in the GitHub.
Pardon me? It was hard to hear you.
Oh, sorry. The mapping file is already in the GitHub repository.
Right, but were there any more changes needed, or is it good to go?
I think it's good to go because I asked Pratik to double check and
sure.
that it's okay.
I think the only comment that I saw from Burak was one of the Dryad. I think something didn't pass. There was a syntax issue, as I remember.
Okay. So, you already sent Burak email about clinical trials, so then it might be running, actually.
Oh, maybe. So just as soon as we get the updated index, we will put it on UI. But just to know, we will do it. So, Jeff, then should we let Burak know specifically that he needs to re-index only those?
Yeah. Just tell him which ones to re-index, yeah.
Okay.
Well, so Anu, I think there's an underlying question here about the re-indexing of repositories, and this question has come up before. I think we need to get to a point where, and this is with 43 repositories or however many repositories we have, and that number is going to be changing. You have the table of repositories that summarizes the situation with where they are. Does that what columns does that table have now to indicate a couple of things? One, when was a repository last indexed? And I'm going to suggest it might be one other column, but the detail of it may lead to more than that, but the question is what is the right frequency of re-indexing for each repository as time progresses and as those repositories are updated. This question has come up before, but I think we need to be beginning to see that as a question that's being asked and got on top of, and that's going to be on an FAQ, right? If I'm a user, why isn't DataMed showing data that was put in Geo in the last week? And we can refer people to that table and say our update frequency is every month or whatever it is. But I think we need to begin to start getting on top of this problem across the board.
So I have a question. So would we update or reindex repositories? All repositories would have the same frequency, or maybe there are some repositories that get updated more often? I don't know, so that's why I'm asking. I mean, I guess Jeff has more experience with
I would suggest that needs to be looked at on a repository by repository basis. But if a pattern emerges that says, there are a number. We don't have the specifics here to be prescriptive about that. Right? There are a huge number of factors that lead to that question, and you as a team need to look into them. Like, how big are those repositories? If we could say to you they all need to be updated every night, but it would be dumb of us to say so, because that may be, from a practical point of view, completely unachievable. There may be no loss that it's not done every night. But it can only be decided by looking empirically at what the situation is, rather than talking about it. And if somebody looks at it and updates that document, then others would know.
So maybe somebody can actually look in and see how often. So Jeff, do you have, any ideas about how often do you think?
It's going to be, sort of a trade-off between, running and, overseeing the old and doing new, right? So that's the one other thing, because we have sort of, or at least I have limited staff. So, but we can do it. We could start by doing a monthly run, right? So perhaps we can schedule something in January to do a complete run and see what that takes, to run through all the repositories, sort of in one big batch.
Yeah, that would also be useful to see if it's convenient for Burak to run also everything that was ingested and indexed by us and Hunie's team, right?
Yep.
Okay.
So we could probably do that. I know that the week of the 3rd, there's still some holidays earlier in that week, so maybe the week after that we can. That would be the week of the 10th, right?
It's going to be Jan 10. Yeah, 9th. Okay. The other issue I think that we talked about briefly, but that which also came up in the BD2K all hands meeting is how we would display duplicate records. And one of the things that we have with the dataset distribution is a field where it tells you whether that specific dataset is derived from the primary repository or not. So Xiaoling looked into this a little bit today, and we looked at actually Geo along with Gemma and ArrayExpress. So we taking one specific example. Okay, let's talk quickly. Taking one specific example, I pulled it up. Oh, sorry. I pulled it up. So this is an example of a dataset in ArrayExpress, and it has distributions in Geo as well. But the problem here is the links that are provided in terms of the access URL do not provide internal links between the three repositories. They actually link to the repositories themselves. And the IDs don't match, correct?
Right. If we have the same Geo ID, then we can match them together, link them together. But this used I think it used the ArrayExpress ID.
Yeah, give us 2 minutes. It should be done.
Yeah, no, Yuling's on vacation right now. She's back tomorrow, I think. So she can take a look when she's back. I know that so for the Geo one, without the /EGOD, that gets you to the landing page itself.
Right. Oh no, that
gets you to GS. Yeah.
Yeah,
so
right.
I'm trying. Since Yuling had been looking at this, and when she comes back, she can. I think she's back either tomorrow or the day after.
Okay. Okay. All right, I think then we're almost kind of out of time. Let me see if we had. So maybe we can next week. I will also update the spreadsheet. I haven't updated the spreadsheet, which has information about all of the repositories. I'll go in and update it, and then we can talk more about repositories that are going to be getting ingested. Was there anything else that we needed to talk about?
I know there are a couple of issues that I submitted. I sort of noticed this as 1.5 appeared. There are a couple of issues in there. Many queries are bringing back, if you do a query for glioblastoma, it brings back the whole of Uniprot. It brings back the whole of ClinVar. Now, the order of the results, sure, at the top of the list are relevant results, but why all of the whole content of many repositories is being returned is very worrying. Am I missing something obvious here? Is it a feature? Is it meant to do that?
So before, we use the default algorithm, search algorithm in elective search, and we can define that the relationship between the queries, between the words inside the queries. So in the version 1.5, we use N. So if there's like lung cancer, you search lung cancer, then lung and cancer must appear in that document. So in the version 2.0, we changed it to use a relationship or. So it means or, the lung or cancer will be returned. So the number of the result will be much more than
glioblastoma is a single word. It's very unambiguous as to what it is. It's not like it's a common word, but it's bringing back the whole of SwissProt.
So I think that's because the synonyms we get. So that word will return multiple synonyms, and then we do the all in the synonyms.
But I was looking at some of the return results, and I'm wondering if there was something in the way the synonyms are being handled, because it was matching individual parts of synonyms. So if with a synonym, sometimes they will then do something like melanoma colon, and then the name of the melanoma. And so instead of searching just on the full disease name, however it's written, it seemed to be also including just the melanoma part before the colon. So it's sort of expanding the search instead of just doing the synonym expansion.
Yeah, the synonym expansion is a little bit tricky because if they enter a long string, there's a couple of concepts I recognize. Each of them will come up a bunch of synonyms, and you have to also look at all the combinations. So, and we also check the using and or. So it's not that straightforward, the synonym expansion. We definitely need to spend more time to evaluate the synonym expansion.
This is extremely important because I'm going to say right now the way it looks, I'm almost thinking we need to roll it back to 1.0. I mean, without doing that, just for comparison purposes, is 1.0 available anywhere still at a different URL?
1.0 could it be
we
where?
We have a source code. We can maybe put on development server and put into the comparison.
But all we need to do is all we need to do is just to try different synonym expansion methods. One doesn't expand anything. One is do the current extension, then search, look at the results, compare.
How do you change the order?
Well, but Hua, it's a question of if we need to do that kind of experimentation. I think there's an argument for saying we roll it back to 1.0 while we do that experimentation, and until we've resolved such an issue, one shouldn't put it out there.
Let's take a look. Let's spend a little bit more time on the current problem, and then because we know the synonym expansion had a problem because before that we also fixed another bug about synonym expansion and come up with this version. And I'm pretty sure you may try this term and find some problem, but then we change a little bit, we may find another term has different problems. So there's always trade-off because when we put up this version, it fixed some of the problems that maybe actually cause another set of problems for different terms. So to formally evaluate, we need to do something like we do the challenge. We have to come up a set of queries and we see the trade-off between different strategies. And that's the part actually we always do, actively working on. And so far we haven't really spent that much time on evaluate the current synonym expansion algorithm. We noticed the error last time, and we fixed it. But the current expansion method we haven't really evaluated. We should do that. Yeah.
So Ian's point is that, to put it simply, if a user goes in and puts in a query term, like the one he put in, or autism, you get more than 500,000 responses back. So from the point of view of a user, are they going to sit and sort through 500,000 responses?
Yeah,
well, they're sorted. Ian, you brought up that they're ranked appropriately.
Yeah.
Right.
This is why it have so many return results, because we use the all now. So you recognize a couple terms in like a multi-word phrase, and it will actually rank return the result. If you type accurate chest pain, then we may expand and have a lot of synonyms, and but whatever it have those three words together, like accurate chest pain, it will actually rank to the top. So it return maybe 500,000, but the top ones actually, if you look at it, actually will be most relevant ones. And this way, people, I don't think anyone will actually go through more than 4 or 5 pages, but at least top ranked one is something relevant. And we also compare a little bit. If you restrict it just based on the accurate chest pain, then maybe you are missing some of them. So that trade-off is really between you return a lot, but top ones are highly relevant, versus you return less, but you are missing some of the important ones.
Well, look at the detail of the bug, Hua, because I get the point, and the issue. I don't imagine, it's not my concern that anyone is going to look through what I'm getting back as 1.2 million results. All right, nobody's going to look through that. I'm not imagining. But people are going to look at it and say, wait a minute, that's not right, right? And anytime anybody looks at it and says, that's not right, it undermines their trust in the system. Now, most people are not going to do what I did, which was to go and compare the number of hits that are coming back from Uniprot and say, well, how much of Uniprot is that? And it's all of Uniprot. Now, something is wrong, has to be wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might be a bug.
Glioblastoma brings back 100% of Uniprot and 100% of Clinvar. Tell us what's wrong.
That could be a bug. We need to spend more time.
If it is a bug, it needs to be addressed really, really quickly.
What is the section now?
Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, but non-Hodgkin's GWAS was the term. But I think Ian is talking about glioblastoma as
right,
well.
But if GWAS was in there and in that query and it's ORing things, then anything that matches GWAS is going to come back, and that right there.
Yeah.
Big
so.
issue.
We actually do think have a planning evaluation for the synonym expansion. One plan is actually we're going to compare what we get from individual data repository, what they are getting, type of the same term, limit to the data repository. So I think this synonym thing, Ian, you're right. It needs a lot of more work actually to further improve And first of all, we need to fix bugs if there's any. And the other thing, if we still keep using the OR, and we still can do something to eliminate like those very lower ranked. So if it's less than a cutoff, we don't show them. So we will actually cut a lot of the long tail problem. So it will maybe reduce the number returned.
I'm going to reiterate what I said. I think a lot of this is not going to, can't expect to deal with it off the cuff in a discussion like this. It means working through the issues in GitHub, because the discussion we've just had is moot. The reason I went in and did a search for glioblastoma was because of the response that Jeff made and that we're talking about here. I reduced it to a single term. Quite honestly, I still find it hard to understand. Sure, there are lots of GWASs, right? And I could understand if I did a non-Hodgkin's GWAS, that it brings back GWASs that are other than non-Hodgkin. But why GWAS should bring back the whole of SwissProt, I don't understand.
No, there must be a bug, Ian. We will look into it immediately.
And why? Is there a way to, in the interface, provide a a hidden Easter egg where we can see the exact Elastic search query that gets generated?
Yeah, I think so. On the search details.
So let me just go here and do.
Oh yeah, I saw it. It's actually when you type glioblastoma, it actually come up with a lot of synonyms. Some synonyms have several words, and if you look at the words, they were searching all those words. So those individual words, whenever it hit back. So Anu can show. Yeah, look at this.
Well, yeah, but this shows the synonyms, but it doesn't show me, for example, how it's handling number 9. So is no treated as a separate word that's OR'd together with everything, or?
Oh yeah, I see what you. I think right now what is put all those together, and each individual word will be counted as well. So no, you will hit. That's why so many results come back. I think.
So if you go here, there's a box here which says search details, and that tells you exactly the way the search.
No,
is
but what Jeff wants to know is.
No, but is that the exact that the classic search query is?
I think.
Or just pouring together.
Yeah, I think the individual word no is also counted, and it's actually all the words from the synonym is in the or relation. That's why it has so many terms, and we need to have a better strategy for this. Let's do a little bit more on this synonym. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Ian's point is that as long as 1.5 is out there, this needs to be addressed very, very quickly so that people don't get turned off.
Yeah. We're gonna work on this right away. Cause the synonym expansion we had a problem. So initially the strategy is that you have the synonym, then you have and, just for those, and it return very few results. But of course.
Right, but it has to be a mix of ands and ors, right? Because you need to more.
But now we had or for different synonym, then have an and for.
I thought it would be and within the synonym that gets pulled back, right? And then or in between different synonyms.
I think what we need to do is when you expand the synonym, right? Glioblastoma is expanded to like a 3-word phrase. Those 3-word phrases have to be treated as a single entity instead of looking at each individual word of those 3-word phrase. I think that's actually.
That's probably
we'll fix that. Okay. Okay, let's try that, and we see how many returns to see if they fix any. And
another thing might just be to apply a stop word list to the.
Yeah. I think Elasticsearch should already doing this kind of stop words, right?
It doesn't look like it, because if you search on no and on, you get all
really? Then we should look into the Elasticsearch option for stopping words. Yeah. Good. So we will going to fix it.
Something else.
Quickly then ask everyone try it again.
Okay.
See how it works.
Okay. I think that'll work. That'll help us get to the root of the problem.
Yeah. Really, once you fix it and try it, looks better, then email everyone. Let them more. Everyone can try more. Okay. All right, great. We actually have to stop here. We have another meeting at this conference. All right, okay.
All right, thank you. Bye.
Bye.